Responsibilities of the AHRB have been given to the planning board, and we will work our way through that tonight as we go. We have several items. We have 6 items on our agenda tonight.
Recording in progress.
What is she saying now?
Recording in progress, so I think we're good.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good, because we're already talking.
Yeah.
So first, I would move that we open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda is 76 Ogden Place. It's here for both HRB and Planning Board approval.
Mr. Chairman, if you could just continue that one, they're not going to make it tonight. If we could just continue the public hearing.
Okay, I move we continue the public hearing to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, that's a good start.
Go. We're off to a good start.
Item number 2, we'll try again. 63 Livingston Avenue. Likewise, this is here for approval on an AHRB agenda and the planning board agenda. The public hearing, I would move that we open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Natasha Walko. I'm here from Opachich Architects, representing the application for 63 Livingston. We were here last time for the preliminary meeting for Planning Board, and we're back for a public hearing approval and also AHRB. Should I take us through the Planning Board submission and then segue through the AHRB details? Okay. So. Share my screen. So, as we discussed, or we presented last time, the property is an existing multifamily residence, and as part of the project that's being proposed, we are keeping the main body of the building, which is here, removing an addition to the one side, and then creating, as you see in the proposed plan to the right, 2 symmetrical additions left and right that complement the main body of the house and also allow for rearranging of the program to maximize the space for each of the 4 apartments to make them more accommodating to modern day standards for each of the apartments. As part of that, we are doing improvements to obviously the landscape and the driveway, making some modifications to the existing configurations in order to make the vehicular access more accommodating for the residents and also make it more discreet from the street. So, let me get one or the other. So, as part of some of the comments from last time, we had provided diagrams kind of articulating what the changes were in terms of coverages, building versus driveway and paving. So we really tried to be discreet in the changes that we were making to respect the existing building and also the context of the property. And in order to clarify, for a driveway, we created a diagram highlighting the areas in red that are the changes that being made or proposed for the driveway in order to get the cars further back from the street for the residents that would be parking left and right. And then down here. Right, so we provide separate diagram to color code it to make it a little bit easier to see what the configuration is for parking and access. So currently, drivers or unit owners here pull in and then back out. Similarly, on the right side, unit owners each pull in, stacked behind each other, and then back out of the driveway. One unit owner, which is a single, then parks in one spot here and then can go out, and the other two owners can pull in from here and then back out, or pull out this way or back out depending on who may or may not be parked there. The proposed driveway configuration, as I said, modifies the parking to the back to get the cars left and right further away from the street, so improving that sight line and visual when you're at the street level. And then we also added a pull-off parking zone in the front to facilitate the vehicles that park in the front getting around each other, so that would improve the circulation that way. And tucked one spot in next to the building in order to, again, improve the circulation for residents in and out of the property.
Are all these spots now clear of the village right-of-way?
The village right-of-way being the 10-foot?
The street, yeah, wherever that mark, that point is.
No, but that's a pre-existing condition of the property with the setback, and based on the description of the parking criteria in the code, the chapter which dictates that you have to be beyond 10 feet if you're a multifamily, says that it's in effect if you are adding dwelling units. We're not adding any dwelling units in this case. We have 4 dwelling units currently. We're maintaining 4 dwelling units.
I think you asked for right-of-way. She was describing the setback requirements.
Okay,
Yeah. So the right-of-way, I think they were referring to was the street, from the street, any village-owned right-of-ways.
Yeah, we don't have a change in the village right away. I apologize if I misunderstood the question.
no, that's okay.
But the green car and the red car on the right are beyond 10 feet from the street.
Right,
Yeah, so that's
yes,
fine.
but that is a function of what the existing parking configuration is.
Right.
And we're making improvements in order to make the vehicular access more amenable
Yeah,
for the residents.
Understand.
But yes, it would still be within that.
And the planning board will have to issue a waiver for this if you vote to approve this particular application.
For what exactly?
For the 10-foot setback on either side, we are still waiting. The applicant's going to provide Dan the information as to the exact amount of the waiver that's being requested, but there would be a waiver required because they are expanding the driveway
Okay.
as a result.
Right, that's fact.
Okay. Right, so you can see in the red illustrates the portions that are being expanded.
Gotcha.
And so we had provided some additional dimensions. What Dan needs further is what the extent of the encroachment is for the portions that we're added, that we're modifying. So then, so I want to go through the plans, or I'll just show the elevations? Well, we'll bring them up just quickly to review. So upper is the existing basement, first floor. Then below, we show the proposed. The red line indicates shows existing building perimeter, so you can see where the changes are. And then blue shows the existing deck perimeter versus what's proposed. And then similarly for the first floor. And, again, for second floor and attic, existing shown up above, and then below the proposed. And then, so in terms of the exterior elevations,
Yeah, and
so
that-
again, the main body in the front that we're preserving, and then additions left and right, which defer to the main body of the house, but also respect the vocabulary of that house, which you'll see, of the existing, which you see down below. And then similarly, the rear elevation and the other side.
You may have mentioned this, but is the house now shingled? Will it be re-shingled or what?
The house is currently clapboard siding, and we are proposing to maintain clapboard siding. We'll be proposing to do a hardy plank siding.
Okay.
I can segue to AHRB stuff, so we can look at that if you like.
That's an AHRB question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's our first rodeo here, so I'm not sure.
yeah, what's ours too?
Okay, so, then, so just circling back to landscape.
I don't know what we ask for AHRB questions.
Do we need different hats, like the AHRB hat and then the?
Yeah, that's right.
I think most of the planning board questions will be about drainage on the site. Don't you think?
Yeah,
Handling the water.
we were pretty good with the revisions
Mhm.
on the drainage system. I think all of our previous comments had pretty well been addressed.
Good, great.
So then do I segue?
Sure.
Do an approval on the planning board, and then we segue to,
It's one approval, right?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
yeah, just segue, go ahead.
One
I
approval.
can segue? Okay,
Straight into it.
all right, moving right along.
We have two different resolutions?
No,
No.
and I think
No.
tonight,
Just do one resolution?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to be the guinea pig. Okay. So, right, so we'll start with, bring up our. Right. So this is the view of what we imagine for the building to look like. And the inspiration was drawn from our client based on Boscobel, which I'm sure all, if not most of you, are familiar with. And so we took cues in terms of the aesthetic for the colors and the textures from that. As I mentioned, I have my little board here. Okay, so I'll do that. Gotta hold my roof because it's a little bit loose. So for the roof, we're proposing an asphalt shingle in a nice brown that would complement the other colors that we're proposing for the building. The siding, as I mentioned before, we're gonna maintain in a clapboard look siding. We're gonna do a hardy plank lap siding with 7-inch exposure. This would be the proposed siding color. And then to complement that, we are doing a Anderson A-Series window with a dual finish on the exterior where the sash would be in this terratone color. And then all of the frames and then trim and corner boards and porch railings and posts and all of that would be in this canvas color or paint color to match, so that we get a little play between the windows and the trim, and then both of these complement the siding color. The gutters, which we're proposing to do a concealed gutter in the portions kind of left and right, and then downspouts to make the aesthetic more discreet. would be in an aluminum in this kind of bronzy color to look like a darkened copper. Principally for the front elevation, we're intending to preserve the existing porch entry and restore all of that, including the entry door and transom and side lights, which are original to the house, as far as we can tell. And then the vocabulary of those colors and finishes get repeated throughout the rest of the building.
Good, thank you.
The current windows are just double-hung wood sashes, or?
Yeah, the current windows are double-hung wood sashes.
And so the new windows will pretty much mimic that, or?
Right, yeah. I mean, for some of the, back to the rendered elevation. So we're doing a play of, because at the first floor apartment level, we have really impressive ceiling height. So we're doing cottage style configuration for the front windows. And then as we transition around, where we have shorter window heights, those change to a double hung proportion. Oh, lost my roof. The punch list item. So then at the upper floor, at the second floor level, obviously lower ceiling height, so the proportion of the windows are all double hung. Going around, and at the attic floor level, they're double hung and or casement, depending on where we need to meet egress requirements, but they'll look like double hung. And I can show.
I mean, the front of the character of their house now is just those gigantic trees in the front, and you can't
Yes.
really see anything.
Right, exactly.
So I understand that the tree commission is, so you're meeting the requirements of tree diameters to make up for the ones that are being taken down, or?
Right, yeah, we had submitted a tree report previously, and then we did an analysis for the tree removal, for what the diameters, total diameters were that were being removed and what needed to be replaced. And that was included on the, on the landscape drawing sheet. And two of the trees, which were the more significant ones, there's one that was a 30-inch, I forget if it's in the front and the back, or the back, and one that was a 36-inch, which was basically just a trunk. And so those, based on the code requirements, we can remove without having to, just by right, because they're considered a hazard. So we didn't include those in our calculation, but we accounted for all of the other, which I think it was 27 inches, and we were providing 30 inches EBH for replacement. And I can show you, so these are, I mean, again, the elevations.
It really drops off the back.
Yes. Yeah.
property.
And then. Slow to load. Loading, okay. And then details for the window. And then our roof so the shingles will transition into an aluminum standing seam section with the concealed Yankee gutter. And then the leader, which will be alongside the corner board. For most of the trim profiles, like the brackets, we're intending to reuse and or replicate what's existing there. So we can take advantage of as much of that vocabulary as possible. We have a little gable end detail here with our little with our finial, and section through the gutter here for the main. And then at our other gable end here, where we have a deeper projection. And then this is up at the attic level where we have the deck kind of tucked back into the property, so we have a little bit of overhang, which will replicate or use some of the same vocabulary that the rest of the house does. And then for the porches at the loggias, at the rear of the house, we're maintaining and restoring the existing posts and brackets, which are the vocabulary of the back, replacing the decking, and replacing the deck railings, but using the same vocabulary of the existing.
Looks great.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Never a resolution.
Public hearing?
I would move that we close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Does anybody else want to say anything? I mean, do we want to see if anybody in the public wants to say anything?
I don't see.
Is there anyone on the phone?
I see
Anybody
no-
online?
I see no hands.
They are.
On
Good
the-
comment.
I'm just curious, on the decking, is that, what type of finish are you using on the decking?
Actually, it's a composite decking.
Oh, that's what this one is on the right here?
Yes.
I was curious what that was, okay.
Yeah, it's a company called Trekker. They have lots of different finishes and textures for the top. It tends to be a little bit cooler than like other decking, so it's a little bit friendlier underfoot. And it's also composite, so it's more environmentally friendly.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a resolution?
This is when we have to wait because we need to get the variances that are required, the waivers that you're gonna need to pass. We don't have that information yet.
Oh, for the
Right. the
driveway?
Yes, the applicant's gonna provide that to us. So next month, you can prepare to pass the resolution.
Can we close the public hearing?
Yeah. We can close the public
Right.
hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
I know this makes it more work for you guys, but it sure makes it a lot easier for the applicants.
Well, whatever,
Well, it's not-
it wasn't that much more
not
work because
much-
it's a beautiful
Yeah, but
design.
Right, it's
still,
not much
but
work
still,
when the-
she would have had to wait another month.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, she has to wait another month anyway because we don't have a
Well, yeah,
reso.
but, yeah. Just saying.
Yep.
I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So, thank you.
So now you have to submit the variant information to Dan.
Okay, with the additional information dimensions for what the encroachment is.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Okay,
And it'll be an automatic thing.
yeah.
okay. All right, well,
Number one on the agenda.
number one.
That's right. We won't make you wait. We'll put them at the end of the,
Do I have to come back?
Agenda.
That's what I'm trying to understand. I have to come
Yes.
back?
Yes, you have to
Yes,
come back
unfortunately.
next month,
to take care of it.
please.
Okay.
Just make sure you take care of all the information they need, and I think we're all on board. It'll happen right
Yeah.
away.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome.
Number two on the agenda of both the AHRB and the Planning Board is 63 Livingston Avenue, approval for proposed renovation of existing multifamily.
That's what we
That's this
just
one.
did.
we just did.
Did that.
That's what
That's what we just did.
We just did Livingston.
Next one. No, we're on three.
So we're at North.
Oh, I'm sorry.
North Mountain Drive.
We're back. All right, so I can just do it now.
Yeah, right.
What is this, a new?
Who's got a scale? I'll tell you right now.
We just did
Because the first
Livingston.
people didn't show.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, no, I'm sorry.
yeah. So, zero more, no.
Zero Mountain
I
Drive.
have trouble
North
saying it
Mountain
even.
Drive.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you there?
Yeah, the way your voice was distorted in Washington, we're like, "Ugh, what's happening? Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Susan Wilson, here back presenting before you 0 North Mountain Drive. Here representing Tanya Giglio along with Patty Steinschneider. As you probably recall, but just to refresh your recollection briefly, we are here on a referral from the zoning board. We do need a variance in order to allow this lot.
Could you be a little closer to the microphone, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we're here on a referral from the zoning board to the planning board asking for an advisory opinion as to whether or not it is possible to situate a single-family home on this lot. We need a variance from the zoning board with respect, because of the steep slopes that are on the lot, to allow this lot to be a buildable lot or a building lot. So we have two requests tonight, and I will go into detail, and Patty will provide more information as well. But first request tonight is that you have enough information in front of you based on the test results, the calculations, and the submissions that Mr. Steinschneider will go through. We certainly have addressed stormwater runoff, erosion sediment control issues, site distance concerns at the driveway, the size of the house, and a couple other issues or concerns that the planning board and the zoning board raised. So our first request is that there is a positive recommendation back to the zoning board, that it is likely that a single-family home could be situated on this property. Our second request is that this board set a public hearing for its next meeting, so that we could simultaneously seek the necessary variance from the zoning board and not be delayed at the planning board, and have these processes run in tandem. You're not committed to anything at this point, but we're asking to be able to advance both. So without further ado, I will hand the details over to Patty.
I'm going to make one slight adjustment on it, is that a lot of the documents that we've actually gotten prepared by our engineers, while they're in the process, they've been submitted, but they haven't yet been reviewed by the village. The main thing, so we're not sitting here saying, you guys have had a chance to look at that. We know you're going to need a chance to look at that, but since all of those things come out showing that it can handle the drainage, it can handle all of the concerns that have been addressed, that we would be able to go back and move forward with the zoning board. I don't want to misrepresent that those documents, I mean, we're submitting stuff as soon as we get it, because the way it works is that we don't really know how soon certain things can be reviewed. So getting it in sooner than later, it seems always to be the good thing to do. We haven't really gotten a chance to ever present this. We've been here we've been to you once, we've been to the zoning board twice, and this will be the first time we're actually showing you a couple of images of things. So I've kind of skipped over a bunch of stuff because I don't think you need to see that since we've already introduced it. One thing I did want to show is the subdivision map that was filed with the county in December 1989, because that is kind of what we feel substantiates that this was approved as a building lot. We understand that things may have changed in the code, and maybe we now need a variance for it, but this property was established as a single-family building lot after the steep slopes ordinance was adopted. And the planning board gave good consideration to this, and they actually got to the point of putting stipulations on this map, which are some of the things that we're talking about even at this point. For example, 100% retention required for house and impervious surface areas for parcel A, subject to the construction of a retention system which complies with all Village Dobbs Ferry standards. So there's no question about that has to be done. Obviously, with a rocky site, there were concerns that were expressed that somehow maybe this wouldn't be able to accommodate that. So we've had the test pits done, we've done the perk tests. Those all come out looking very good. We've analyzed the rock. We understand, we appreciate Mr. Lane's comment that it really becomes a matter of the cost of the applicant to do the removal, but we have determined that the rock is not the kind that would necessitate unusual methods. It's something that we can hammer out. Not that that's terribly pleasant because it's noisy, but we've had good success with that kind of rock in a number of different properties in this area. One other thing that we've done is, I think this board may have been the one that mentioned it, is how do we compare with the other lots in the area in terms of the size of the lot, the types of slopes that we have. So we did an analysis by lot size, which shows that this property is kind of right in the middle for the area that we're dealing. Yes, there's a property with 1.84 acres, But the next largest is 0.93, and then you get down to 0.39. So this being 0.54 is consistent with many of its neighbors. And the other one it wasn't hard to understand because you can see it on the properties. The sloped areas on all of these sites, in fact, all but one, is substantial. So some of these properties have, a lot more slope even than this does. Here are some just images, I think. Did you guys get a chance to go up there?
Yes.
Okay, so good. So I don't really need to spend time showing you pretty pictures of it. I do want to point out that once you're up on the lot, it doesn't really feel, it's not the most difficult lot we've built on in steep slopes. It's actually, kind of a Dobbs Ferry building lot. There are a lot of houses that are built on properties just like this. And I've already mentioned the houses being, the situation on the other lots being very similar. Here's the survey, which I think you've already seen. So identified actually by the planning board, or by the zoning board, in the letter that they sent to you, were a number of specific things, and we've taken those directly. That's not.
No, it went to the dark corner of the internet there while you were not looking.
It's still good over here.
That one's up.
It's weird.
Interesting. This is a cursed presentation. It's too bad it's not Halloween. So if we're using that screen, what we've done is we've looked at there were actually 4 or 5 that were mentioned in the letter. We've identified it as 6. One is the idea that the stormwater management, I think, is key to everyone on this, is, the comments and concerns of neighbors has been expressed. The letter from the zoning board, cited specific neighbors who have specific concerns about the water reaching their property. So a subsurface detention retention system will be installed to accommodate all stormwater runoff from the increased impervious surface areas proposed. That's a given. If we can't do that, this is not a building lot. Second was vehicular safety. I'll show you a photograph in a minute that shows that there's more than 100 feet visibility from the proposed driveway in both directions. It is a hilly area. The roads are curvy, but where the driveway comes down should not be an issue. Rock removal, as I noted earlier, the type and extent of rock ledge on the site has been determined to be the kind that can be removed by a rock hammer. We're not going to need anything like blasting. But Dobbs doesn't really have this yet, but we'd be willing to stipulate to the same kind of requirements. Irvington has developed a series of requirements for hammering that has to do with limiting times, precautions to prevent dust, a lot of things that are really intended to protect the neighbors and, avoid them being, no, this is not advancing.
But did we all go see, everybody went and saw the site?
Yes. I did.
You did.
You're not doing this right, yeah.
I mean, to me, it looks like a building site. And, the drop is mostly right by the road, so it's.
Right.
I have a question.
Sure.
In your plan, it looks like you have a rain garden or something there on the north side. Is that what that is, or?
The north side, what we have is a swimming pool.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. Designed somewhat pondish.
Because looking at this, at the site,
Yeah.
it looked like the water would go down the hill to that guy's
Well,
other swimming pool down the hill.
We have, it is inconvenient that this is not advancing, because we would be able to show you more things.
That's okay.
Okay.
Just draw some pictures in the air.
I mean, we have this.
Yeah, we have some plans here.
Okay, yeah, but the things I'm trying to show you, of course, are things that are more interesting than that. But I'll mention them anyway. I've already mentioned the fact that the driveway has very good visibility, and we'll submit all those photographs. Another thing that this board mentioned was whether we could do something about the other areas being more pervious than impervious. And so what we've proposed is that even though the Hudson Engineering's calculations for the storm drainage assumes that everything that we're doing is impervious, what we're actually proposing is that all of the terrace areas and the walkways will actually be pervious with space so that the water can go around the paving. and be built on at least a minimum of 1 foot of gravel, with the voids providing us the equivalent of a fairly good-sized storm being able to be held in that before it even reaches the storm drainage system. So I think that'll help make a lot of this easier. The other thing I was going to show you pictures of, although some of you may have gone to One Myrtle at some point, the house that we built on the corner of Myrtle and Washington, the addition, it's worth a trip over. They would love to show off. We had gotten approval from this board for retaining walls behind that building that were like 6 to 8 feet tall because of the terrain. When we were digging, we exposed rock outcroppings, and the rock outcroppings are what now you see behind the house. So we eliminated the retaining walls, and it's, you know, it's like a rock garden. It's quite attractive. We've investigated this to the extent we were pretty confident we're going to be able to do a lot of the same. And what we've included on our drawing now, it was a concern that the village engineer had. We've actually got a detail showing the method for how that, you know, how that would work, where you have a situation where it's partial rock outcropping and partial stone retaining wall.
When you did your test pits, we saw, what did you find down there?
Well,
Did you hit rock right away, or?
No, well, it depends on where we dug. The closest, we obviously could have chosen to dig someplace where you would not have been able to dig, because you could see the rock right there.
Yeah.
So I'd say that and some of the areas around it, we're digging down maybe 20 inches. We're hitting ledge, but we were able, in the section that's up closer to the road, we actually dug down 8 feet without hitting ledge. And we had
The
rocky.
silt just came and piled up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what it is. So we've got a very large area where they can do, they're showing a 25 Caltech units size system. So it's a tremendous amount of water being able to be held in that. And the perk was remarkable. I don't know what the magic that Michael Stein has, but he finds where you can really get rid of a lot of water. And the perk turned out to be 14 inches an hour. So we could basically take a lot of water, put it in the ground, and have it recharge the aquifer, all the positive things.
I mean, I'm doing all the talking here.
Well,
But
so far it's
as
been
to,
good.
as to your requests, I mean, I'm a little uncomfortable saying this is a building lot until the paperwork gets to the engineer, you know? I'm sorry about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether, I mean, you're dealing with the engineering side of it, if I understand this at this point. You know, in another step forward, you'll be dealing with all of the design components. But at this point, I think the question really from the zoning board, is this a lot that you'd be able to build a house on?
I mean, the way I looked at it, it looked like it, but again, it's, you know, I'm not, you know, if the engineering doesn't work out, then I'm steering you the wrong way. So I don't know what to say.
We'll have to take a look at the engineer. I'm not sure what happened with, when you say things were submitted.
Well-
Was that submitted through the proper channels, or just, you're saying, I know you emailed me something.
Right.
Later.
But we also submitted
Didn't get a
that,
chance to look at that yet.
right.
We've got to look at it. You know, with an infiltration system, there's a concern if it's on a sloped area. It's not recommended to use infiltration, so I'd want to just check that. I'm sure
Yeah.
Mr. Stein also looked at that as well, but,
Yep.
you know, we've got to take a look at it. I would recommend, we do have another memo where we recited some of the same comments from the last memo, of course, and a couple of new things which I heard you were addressing. I would suggest for the next submission, you give us an annotated response to the second memo.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And let's submit everything,
Yep.
you know, in time for us to review, because when there's confusion as to what was submitted when and how. When we had our memo done, and I was being told that the stuff was
That's,
submitted, you know,
that's why I let it off with that. I mean, what it is there's a deadline of 10 days, 10 business days before the meeting. And
and there was a holiday.
and the work that we got from Hudson and the landscape architect, both of those came in after that date. One of the, you know, the process, I don't know if it's because of the complexity of some of the projects or you know, or maybe still left over from COVID, but we've had situations where even if we were to submit in advance of the deadline, it doesn't guarantee us that that the building department's gonna have the time to review it. So at this point, what we're doing is if somebody submits something to us, we're submitting it to the village, and the email that I sent to you guys actually said that I don't anticipate that you'll not necessarily be able to review any of this, but I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that the document exists.
Right, but I think in all fairness to like the building department, there is a process in place. And so it's just easier if you submit it at the deadline all in once, so then Sarah knows what to
Sure.
distribute. And the other thing too is because then we end up reviewing potentially things multiple times or things that have changes, and that's also problematic to your client.
Yeah. Do you review the things for the zoning board?
No.
I know.
Okay, that's unfortunate, because we just submitted in time, we submitted for the, we submitted all the documentation for the ZBA. What I'll do is we'll just make a submission, we'll do the letter that you're, we would do that anyway, but we'll get all that to you right away. We've got the other documents now already, so we can submit in advance by maybe a week or so.
A couple things, in addition to whatever our engineer is going to look at in terms of the stormwater management system, what is do you also submit to the engineer whatever information you have about to support whatever your third point is here about the type of rock being something that you're confident you can?
We can get a
you can
letter
chisel
from
out?
the.
Like what is, I don't know.
What we had was a contractor who does rock removal. We had him out at the site. He took a look at it. I mean, the 16 houses we did in Irvington, every single one of them was rock. There are a variety of rock formations in the area, and this appears to be similar to a lot of the ones that, it's not that it's easy, but it's not, there's a black rock in this area that's very difficult to get out. We're not seeing any of that. Of course, that doesn't mean that it's not 6 feet down, but one of the drawings that we've added to the set at the recommendation of the village engineers, we've got cross sections. And what we're doing is making flexible in the foundation, that if we're digging down and we're hitting rock, we're not going to just keep hammering away. We're going to do a crawl space.
So that brings me to the other thing I was going to say, which is, because I think it's important for you to submit all that information to, I personally, I'm sure you can hammer anything away ultimately. But I guess what I was wondering is there something about the design that could be modified so that maybe there's a way either the house or the pool terrace or whatever, that things could be terraced a little more so that the amount of rock removal and regrading that you had to do was minimized?
Well, the way we've positioned the house elevation-wise is to do a kind of balance between cut and fill. So we're actually filling in front of the house and excavating the back. So we're not just going down, just assuming we're going to take things out. Similarly, the retaining walls that we're showing are much more retaining walls than we anticipate are going to be necessary. We showed what I think would be a worst-case scenario, and that would be if we weren't hitting rock.
Right, well, the retaining walls, you still didn't provide retaining wall heights or any information on that.
The new drawings show that. We have a sheet that's just about the retaining walls and that stuff that has the heights at the top of the wall, bottoms of the wall, and then the details showing the construction.
That's SP3 that I'm looking at?
Maybe.
No, because that would have been new stuff submitted.
Yeah,
I don't think we have any.
you don't have the new ones.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is October.
So how do you determine with the size of the house where
Yeah, this is
and how much
October 13th.
rock would have to be removed? And is there any way that
This
you
has to be a new
can
one. Oh, this thing, October.
come up with some type of a time frame of what that, at some point, I'm not saying right now, but
Yeah.
at some point, is there a way to determine what the noise and jackhammering or whatever?
Hammering
removal-
is even worse than jackhammering.
Yeah,
It's the big thing going thunka, thunka, thunka. So
Not in here.
that's one of the reasons I'm mentioning Irvington. What Irvington does is they don't make it cavalier, where you just get a bunch of guys out there and they hammer for the next 10 years. I think the comment was the house in town where people were removing rock for years. In Irvington, what they do is they set a specific schedule, which is 37 days. And you have 37 days to remove the rock. That includes Saturdays and Sundays upon which you cannot work. So, and holidays, you cannot work. So it really helps restrict how long it can possibly go on. They also restrict it to 2 hammers. So it's not like you could bring 10 out there or something if you're trying to just take out as much rock as you want. So what that does is it puts a lot of interest on the contractor to find those ways of minimizing the amount of rock. And that's often what is happening when you're actually taking the rock out. You find where you're gonna say that we're not gonna have a basement under here. This will be a crawl space. This might even be a slab on grade. You know, or maybe it even needs to be something in Irvington. On one house we did, we actually came back and we said, we need to shift the house about 5 feet so that we can avoid this one area of rock. So until you've taken the dirt out and you've
Right.
exposed the rock, in fact, until you've taken out the rock that comes out easy, you might not really know what that requirement is. One Myrtle was like, it was like a holiday. It was amazing. We expected to have lots of rock removed. When we got to digging, we found we did not need to we didn't need to really remove any of the rock to build the garage.
Right.
We had a little bit we chipped out, so we had room to work. But we were just able to expose the rock and back behind the building instead of building the wall. So we're
So
hoping.
the other question I have is what would be kind of the staging area for that construction site?
Yeah.
Due that the road is so narrow, and also that's a very straight thoroughfare to the Ardsley Country Club.
Right.
So you have, I don't know if you have spoken to them and what their opinion is about that.
They've spoken to me. I haven't spoken to them.
But it's just, I noticed today when I went there, there was a garbage truck coming the opposite way, and
Yeah.
we literally could not get by each other. Like,
Right. It's a
so,
narrow, windy road.
so
Put
the
that up.
question would be, what would the actual staging of the construction, how would that impact that thoroughfare?
Yeah, what you're gonna need to do is have on-site, there is a construction sequence that we've actually developed too, that's in the drawings. Basically, what you're gonna be doing is having a staging area that the rock that's coming out, you're removing from the site. You're not gonna take out tons and tons of rock and pile it up somewhere and have it in the way. You need to be removing the material as you're taking it out. That necessitates planning in advance so that you have some place to take the rock. Sometimes you can be lucky and people are in need of rock, and that helps a lot, but you can't really depend upon that. So you have to have arrangements that if you have to take the rock somewhere, where you're gonna take it and how you're gonna dispose of it. We want to have all of the equipment obviously on site. We have an anti-track driveway that needs to be put in right in the beginning of the process. In fact, all the site mitigation measures have to be implemented before we start any construction. So there'll be a staging area where the trucks can back in on the site to take the rocks out. The anti-track helps to a degree of reducing the amount of dirt that gets on the street, but in fact, I went up there 2 days ago, and I guess the country club is doing work. So there were, mud tracks up and down the street. Usually what we have to have is quick speed dial on somebody who can come and do a sweep of the street if it gets bad. I think another thing that you can do with this is
But
just.
all this stuff will have to be, because you're verbally stating all these things
It's-
need to be part of any sort of site plan submission.
Well,
and-
it would have to be
yeah.
on the sediment erosion
Right.
plan.
Right.
Right, so this is just,
And it's in the construction
sequence.
sequence.
And then, who determines if that road is capable of handling all that load?
Handling what?
Like, if anything happens to
Rock
the
trucks.
actual road,
Big rock,
whether it sinks or if it
You mean
cracks
if
or
there's
if
a
it-
lot of truck traffic with.
Correct, with
bringing
heavy
out
loads of
and,
rock.
I mean,
mean,
that's
will-
something I've seen handled, first of all, if the board, if the board, was very concerned about rock removal, there is a way to quantify it better if you wanted to. You don't have to wait until construction. Normally, maybe with a single-family house, you usually do wait for construction, but, you'd have to do rock probes at a more frequent, spacing on the site to really profile the rock. You could drill, you could core into the rock to see the quality of the rock. There's, we suggested a geotechnical engineer in our first memo. That would be one of the things they could do if it was a concern, and get an accurate measure of rock removal, you could do that. And then you can estimate how many truck trips, how much is going to leave the site, if that's a real concern. And then I've seen that handled with, say, a bond on the road, to repair the road if you had a concern that it was going to have some kind of wear and tear on the roadway. So, you know, depending on the extent of what would have to come out, you know, so there are ways to go about that.
Some of the others too is limiting the size of the trucks. You know, if you got 40 yarders, you're going to have a lot more weight than if you're doing 15 yard.
Right, just have more trips.
Yeah, and then it becomes the,
And it's
you
a
know,
problem with
which
that.
is the better way to do it. So figuring those
But
things out.
back to your original goal for the meeting, I think that we'll need more paperwork, and we're certainly not ready to open a public hearing, so
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's where we are.
I think if the board does want that very accurate kind of picture of rock removal, you'd have to ask for that specific kind of information be done on site, you know, probing on site now. Otherwise, it's gonna, you know, doing 3 or 4 test pits for infiltration is not giving us a picture, really. You could hit a pocket, you don't know really how much rock is really coming out. You could kind of figure, but, you
Would
know.
that be beneficial to you to learn all that?
Not really, it's expensive, and what we've found is, when we did the roads up at Dearman Park, we located the roads by doing the probes, and we found that we were about 50% accuracy. So we found, you know, we assumed there was a lot of rock in an area, really, there was some rock, but it wasn't bad. Other areas where we didn't think there was any, we encountered some of the more difficult.
It becomes a function of, you know, how close the spacing is on the probes. 'Cause
Yeah.
it depends on that, really.
But what we could do is we could do a assumption, which we've done before, which is that everything coming out is rock, and do a maximum of what would that mean? How many trucks would that be, and all that? And because the other thing, of course, is if we're not hitting rock, it's not like it's free, it's dirt. So, you know, rock, you're gonna have more trips because you don't have as compact a load as if you have dirt, but you're gonna be taking out a certain amount of material. That's something else that the engineer has, village engineer has asked for, is the cut and fill calculations that Michael Stein's provided. So what we could do is we could expand that into, you know, if all of the material coming out is rock, what would we be looking at in terms of the amount of it and the number of trucks and all that kind of stuff?
Okay.
That'd be helpful.
You can do
Yes,
that.
sir. 'Cause,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean,
Fine.
even if everything goes well, it's going to create problems for the people that live up there, people going to the club. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's hard to have that many trucks and that much activity and not
course.
create problems.
It's still, we should remember, a single-family home.
I'm sorry?
It's a single-family home still. So,
Yeah.
and we, you know, that there are others that have been built up there in this, you know, in the same location. It's always, construction is always a problem for people, neighbors, you know, noise, disruption, but, you know, it's a balance. What I was gonna mention, a little while ago was, one of the other things that we think is gonna be useful here is for us to find a transfer location for the people working on the job site. So instead of having 6, 8 cars showing up, trying to find a place to park, we'll make arrangements where they can park someplace and have one van bringing them up.
Yeah.
So we can reduce the amount of parking on site.
There's I'm sure you've seen the auxiliary parking lot up at the club. If
Do you
go
think the
up-
club would be cooperative with us and help us?
I'm sure that they would love to rent it to you. I mean, it's it's a big empty space up there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that would be.
Not the main parking lot, but the one that.
Yeah, the only thing with that is that access off of Cricket Lane?
I'm sorry?
Can they get there off of Cricket Lane?
No.
The auxiliary, because that would be beneficial. One of the things I'm trying to avoid is
Cricket
just the
Lane.
vehicles coming up onto North Mountain. So not only the parking, but how many car trips a day.
So does the maintenance area of the club connect to the,
Well, that's down below.
Mountain
That's
Drive.
down
I
below.
think you don't need to,
No, they
I
don't.
feel like, I don't know why we're,
No, you don't want
we've
to,
given him direction.
yeah, well, let's
you don't want to do
we're done
that.
talking about this.
You don't.
Yeah.
you don't-
Good.
yeah.
So did you have
Thank-
anything else you want to say?
I guess, thank you, said that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we'll be back, I guess,
Not really.
next month, and we owe a status report to the zoning board on the 14th, so we'll let them know that planning board is still in progress and moving forward, but it takes some more time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you.
No, no, thank you.
Next item on our agenda tonight is 111 Bel Air Drive, pre-submission conference for proposed addition and renovation to a single-family home.
Let me set this up. I always do it the wrong way.
Right.
Bought the last. Oh, is it going on there, though? How do I get? Oh, is it no? I didn't share, yeah, I didn't share it, I wasn't.
Propose and close all this.
Did you see these renderings?
And
Yeah.
this is- And this is.
Spiffy
No,
renderings.
this is getting up. Extension up. Adding to it. Correct. And then they're adding this thing. Are you next door neighbors?
All right, my name's Niall Kane, I'm the architect for Alice and
What was after you presented?
Dave DeBeery, and I have some responses to engineers' comments. Should I hand them out, or?
We haven't looked at anything, we just got it.
Yeah,
tonight,
yeah.
So we'll look at it.
All right, and I have some letters of, sort of support from various neighbors. You want to?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
But she's next door to that photo of 108.
These also have my responses, and I just take them together.
Now,
Steve?
We have, how many copies?
No, that's right, you won't.
Kane,
Mr. Kane?
Yeah?
how many copies did you?
Oh, I made 6, I think. Didn't I? I wasn't sure. how many.
We can look at one.
Let's make sure Dan gets one.
Yeah.
Here.
who's missing?
We can
Well, we
share.
could share one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, should you and I'll share one?
We can share. We,
That's yours.
Do they have?
Donna doesn't want
I
one.
don't need one.
This is their last meeting.
Thank you.
She's coasting.
I'm coasting.
do you need one?
It's a lame duck.
Here,
My lame duck.
Anthony has a copy of
here,
this.
we're back.
You got one.
We received a copy via email.
Right, right.
I would suggest that,
This is addressed
the
to you.
responses get officially submitted.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if
Oh, yeah.
it went through
Well-
officially, because this way for the next meeting where we all have it and it's in the packets and it's being reviewed and everyone's
Yeah.
reviewing it.
And if anything else comes up tonight, obviously, that would all be packaged
Yeah.
together in one thing. Yeah, because there's likely some other.
Right, it's usually best to just submit for the deadline, because then it prevents
Yeah, I just-
confusion.
All right.
Trying to expedite things, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to talk about some of the responses now anyway, so just in writing.
Okay.
Writing, but absolutely would be to them formally. Anyway, so this is 111 Bel Air Drive, it's the existing house. And there's a couple, and this is how we're imagining transforming it, really redoing it significantly. I don't have to see what's up there, I guess I just know it's there. This portion here is is an addition. We received a zoning variance for the little front vestibule, which is tucked under this front porch. And this front porch actually largely complies with zoning. It was just slightly wider than zoning permits. It should be up to 50% of the length of the facade, and it's about 1 foot 1 over. In any case, we've gotten zoning board approvals for that aspect of the job. Everything else in terms of setbacks does comply. We've looked at the coverage, house construction coverage, and the coverage of impervious surfaces and so forth. as well, all of which complies, and taken into account the steep slope areas, just shown on the survey. This is the back elevation, and again, this is how imagine transforming it. This curved portion is an addition. We've sort of taken some cues, as Gabe kind of suggested, taking cues from that curved terrace, stone terrace, which is existing. And although this comes out a little further than that stone terrace. And then we have some stone terraces as it comes down to the west side of the property. And there's a series of balconies, all of which have cable railings. We're looking at stone base with shingle siding and copper gutters, I'm sort of assuming I'm going to do everything together and not do planning board first and then
Yes.
architecture review board. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is the first time I've done this here. Yeah, so that's the back elevation. This is the elevation to the south. We don't have a full rendering of it, but this is an elevation just showing two existing trees here and planting that we're proposing along that north elevation. This is the site plan. The survey showing the steep slope areas. There's some, sort of two, as you know, two portions of it, one exceeding 25% and one between 15 and 25%. Taking all that into account with our calculations. I was a little confused by some of the comments from the engineer because we did do some modifications just before the zoning board and we submitted those, so I wasn't sure if you were looking at the final ones or the ones before that, but in any case, because
I looked at whatever was submitted.
yeah, and I just wasn't quite sure. We only made minor. We decided to remove this shed, and then once we got approval for the front porch, we included that properly, which allows us to deduct 50% of that area. And then we also showed pervious paving for the existing driveway and the little extra car parking space, which we originally shown as asphalt. So that just made some last-minute adjustments to the coverage area calculations. We did split up the two drawings as you requested, in two separate drawings because you don't like my busy drawings. But this shows the infiltrators, stormwater management system, and areas of construction. What is the term? Construction holding areas, as your staging areas, and so forth. We did do a little section through the site requested at some point just to show the relationship to the wall. There is an aspect of this proposal which I should point out, and that is that we're also legalizing construction or extension of existing retaining wall in the back, which was done without a permit, and now we're legalizing this as part of this application. I can explain, I'll go a little further and explain. We've done an analysis of the existing wall and we're convinced that it is perfectly stable and so forth. Again, this is just a little section to show the relationship of the infiltrators to the wall, showing the angle anticipated for the typical angle of incidence of the water going into the ground would not affect this retaining wall. These plans of the house. So again, this portion here is the addition. We have a living room which we're depressing down to achieve the 10-foot ceiling height. We are making every effort to keep this house low. It already is quite low in relationship to the street. I'll show you a diagram in a minute. Shows that height relative to the street. So we are also, as not have mentioned, but we're proposing an addition on top of the existing garage as part of that. Roof plan, again, addition. This is the addition over the garage, the study and the bedroom. elevations of the front, side. Again, this will be a copper standing seam roof on the porch. And the top upper roof will be asphalt shingle. We have this little eyebrow window on the top. Again, shingles in a gray, as shown on the renderings, and stone base. This shows, this is actually the outline, the roof of the garage. This shows the addition here. And I want to point out also that we're pitching the ends of the roof back in order to, again, to decrease the height of the structure along the street. Just a little analysis of different houses. You can see this house is not, is similar in size to existing houses in the neighborhood. And also, well, this pertains to the zoning board, really, this diagram in terms of achieving that, getting allowance for that little addition. Because it's very similar to other houses in the area. Some of them are quite a bit closer to the street. So we go back to this. This is the diagram I was talking about. As you can see, it's quite low compared to the street level. It's 21 feet 6 inches, 21 feet 9 inches or so from the street elevation, and this is the elevation here, right at the front of the property line. Sky exposure plane. We are largely conforming with the sky exposure plane. There is, and it does comply with the sky exposure plane regulations as it relates to the first floor elevation. There is a very low area right at the corner of the house, which pushes it into non-compliance right at the very corner. But my opinion is that is not, that's not an area that's occupied by anyone, and that doesn't affect the idea of the sky exposure plane is the impact on occupants. It doesn't really affect any occupants, and it is the existing setback is 11 foot 7 inches. We're not changing that, and required is 10 feet.
That's the northwest corner?
The very northwest corner, and I'll show you some photographs of that area so you can see that it is kind of a depressed area below the basement level, actually, where it's largely unoccupied. Oops. Just a section through the house, just for see the relationship of the front to the back. Section through the front porch area, a little vestibule area, sort of cathedral ceilings, a little eyebrow window, and the back terrace. So this is actually section through the addition portion of the house. So a series of photographs now of the existing house. You've seen two of them. This is the back elevation of the house. This is the north elevation where we're proposing the addition above, and right about here is where we're proposing an addition. It's going to be set back.
So I'm sorry, Neil, I just want to be sure. So on this side, this is the south side, right?
This is the north.
West.
Facing north. I mean, facing south.
Yeah, it's the south elevation, right?
Yeah, right.
So the addition that you're adding on this side is, you're just extending the footprint of that existing volume. You're not building out further south.
We're not building out further.
You're building up.
Yep, we're building up. And then the new proposed balcony is actually back 4 feet from this location. So we're pulling this back. And if I can go back to the drawings that show the addition, but there's the addition of the, what we're calling the billiard room, which is right here. Well, let me go back a second. So this is, again, this is the addition above the garage. This is the existing garage, which will remain the same internally anyway. This is the balcony I'm talking about, which actually be pushed back 4 feet from where it is now. This is the pool, or the billiard room area here. which is back in line with the existing house, not the garage, but the existing house beyond. So it's back, 12 feet or so from this base. This is the area I'm talking about, this is actually the basement level. This is where that elevation is taken from, that is very low and, relative to the first floor elevation, even the basement elevation is close to the basement elevation. And it's largely sort of I would argue, sort of an unoccupied area. And I would say also that this addition does not affect any views of the river from the adjacent properties, because we're not doing any addition other than this low addition at the bottom. We're not doing any addition to the west. And that, I feel, is always important to preserve, make every attempt to preserve views, and that's why we kept it low as well.
And that's how close the adjacent house is.
The adjacent house is close, just about the other
Because
property.
it's non-conform, I think it has a existing non-conforming side yard.
Existing non-conforming, of course, yeah. But this house, the proposed house, even with the addition, again, we're going up about 3.5 feet more, will be lower. This house adjacent to it is actually taller.
Say that again, I'm sorry. No.
The adjacent house to the south is actually taller than the existing house or the proposed.
Oh.
Right. Again, that's just that area that potentially this sky exposure plane affects down here, right? So storage area.
I just want to clarify something about my understanding of the sky exposure plane is, I'm not saying that that doesn't make sense to pick some place where it makes sense to violate it. I'm not making any judgment on what you're doing, but I think you're saying about it affecting occupancy. My understanding of it was just another one of several guidelines related to the overall massing of
Yeah,
something on the
that's true.
site. When you said something about affecting occupancy.
Well, I'm saying that, what I mean is, it's about affecting human beings, right? I mean, the whole point of it is about how.
It's about scale. It was
about
a way of
scale,
moderating the
affecting
scale
people.
of whatever
I'm
was.
just saying, if it was affecting their, some level of the house or living room or whatever, and they're looking out, that would be, suggest that it has some impact. And that's the reason why the sky exposure plane law, was created.
Well, it was created, to moderate the mass. It was
Yes.
one of several things.
Well-
It's discretionary. We went through a whole thing about whether it should be in the zoning or a guideline. It's a guideline to control massing.
Right, right.
The overall
Yes,
scale of the
and massing
structure.
affects,
Yeah.
you know.
Like, it makes no
Affects the-
difference. I don't.
It affects the
okay.
massing.
What, the pre-existing, non-approved stonework and wall and so on, what's the process for that?
Well, they're trying to legalize that now with this application. I don't know who wrote the violation. It was back in 2019, but it was for some walls on a patio.
I'm.
But before this owner,
Explain that.
Say again?
before this owner.
Yeah.
It was done by the previous
Dan and I
owner.
discussed it, and I think building department agreed that we would package this together and deal with the legalizing as part of this project.
But I was just curious, how's that work? You come and take a look at it, or you've already done some studies of it, or?
We haven't, but we will do inspections on it. And Anthony will review for the drainage and
There
everything.
was a report that was submitted.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I have with the report, I mean, if we're talking about the structural stability of the wall, is that it's clearly states it's a visual, an
Well,
inspection of what was visual at the time. It's not a structural analysis of the walls, of the lower wall or the upper wall. So that would have to be established. That's kind of, in a way, that's a separate issue from the wall being legalized now. So the question kind of arises, does this site plan then, should it be presented in the existing condition, with the existing condition showing what was there before the wall was there? you know, like the steep slope map and so forth. So that's, I'm not sure if like, if your approval then is then retroactively approving that wall being built the way it was built also, you know, so it would be doing that. So that's something to consider, you know, how you look at that wall. Not necessarily like it's there and you have to accept it, but, or do you look at it as, it's like part of this application, you know, would you approve this site with a wall that high at the back? That's what has to be,
No.
you know, in terms of site plan, you know? And then there's the other things that just come along with it, with the drainage and the structural analysis of that wall, whether you approve a wall of that height or not. If you, let's say you do, they would still have to establish the structural stability of the wall.
We have to make
Not
sure
really
it's
to the
safe if
board
we're gonna
Yeah.
approve
To
it.
to
I
determine
mean,
that
we've
now,
done
you know?
more of that actually, which I was just going to get to the retaining wall portion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, just was
of
curious
this-
how you
of the
do that.
presentation.
I mean, if it's already built and it's safe, I mean, there's not a big question there. I mean,
Yeah, it's difficult to do, because you really need to know about the backfill materials.
Which
and-
we did, we've discussed
and
with the,
subgrade materials. I mean, you have to know also about the existing wall below it,
right,
you know, so it's.
I mean, we've,
I would-
That's
yeah.
part of your,
we've done, yeah, I'm
Structure.
trying to get to that.
okay. Sorry,
But,
I'm jumping the gun, sorry.
No, I understand the concerns, absolutely. So this is the existing
geez.
stone wall, and this is what was built above it is a geotextile type wall, which
Oh,
you're all familiar with, I imagine. So that and the geotextile system, of course, means that there's no lateral force on the wall itself. The lateral force is accepted by the geotextile fabric going back into the earth and the weight of the earth and so forth. So as far as,
I take exception to that. I mean, there's
Well,
lateral force on the wall. The geotextile serves to anchor the
Right.
wall
from lateral forces.
from the lateral.
That's what I
Right,
just said.
right.
Not really.
Not really.
Well, yeah,
Not actually.
well, yes, I mean, the geo. So this wall is pinned to the existing stone wall. We did look at the weight of the wall itself, and if we take every possible sort of worst-case scenario in terms of the bearing capacity of the soil and assuming there's no spread footing below this stone wall, which there likely is, you know, we've come up with the fact that with the bearing capacity of 3,000 pounds per square foot of the soil, which is lower than it probably is, the weight of the wall at the highest possible point is about 1,050 pounds on this wall. And again, we're assuming that, you know, the footing of this wall is 1 foot wide, and it really isn't. Of course, it's quite a bit wider than that. So looking at it from worst-case scenario, and the fact that the geotextile fabric was put in per manufacturer's instructions, and the fact there's see a bit of the geotextile fabric where the project was stopped before it was completed. This is a bit of geotextile fabric here. They had intended to fill this sort of zone, which is, as you may know, kind of a no-no around this beautiful sycamore tree. So what we're proposing to do is take this down, 2 courses of this wall down to grade, and continue with a railing. You can see a little bit of it right there, which was stopped as well. So we'll continue that around this corner. Again, taking this down so it comes down to grade and leaving the tree.
So that's not part of the base of the foundation of the building, it's just a
No, no, no.
retaining wall?
So, yeah, so how does this actually interact with the work you're doing in the house, or does it?
Well, no, I mean, if this was never done, it wouldn't change the house. per se.
I mean, the house is
Nothing-
supported on its own.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah, it is. I
completely
mean,
independent. You're not counting on this to doing any work.
No, completely independent, absolutely, completely independent. I mean, like I said, if it was never done, we'd just do it, without, no relationship.
So do you have to dig down to the base of the lower wall and see what's down there, or how do you find out what's down there?
I mean, we could do some digging below there. Like I said, I mean, there's no way the wall tapers thinner, we've
Right,
assumed
right.
the absolute worst case scenario in terms of the bearing strength of this wall, and it far exceeds, the weight of the wall on top of it. And again, there's no, the lateral weight is is absorbed by this geotechnical system, geofabric system. That's why there's no footings and no concrete, no rebar in these walls. They're very easy and inexpensive to build, and they work. It's they all of this engineering is worked out by the manufacturers of these walls. It's sort of tried and true, so to speak.
And the second part of the wall was built when, and?
3.5 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago, three years.
Okay.
I mean, Alice and Gabe could clarify that, but I believe it's 3.5 years.
Okay.
You know, it's certainly it's a good sign that, you know, the wall hasn't moved, it looks like
Well,
it's
that's-
solid. But, you know, the only way, what's very critical with these types of walls is the backfill material, the compaction. And, you know, the only thing that's going to prove that this wall is adequate, you know, adequate from a structural standpoint, is a structural engineer doing an analysis. And that might involve some probing and geotechnical analysis. So, but, you know, that's aside from the fact of just this board approving a wall of that size. So,
No. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't approve the wall.
yeah.
Really?
No. If it's against the code, why would I approve it?
No, it's not against the code.
Huh?
It's not against the code.
It was just built illegally. It was
Okay.
built without
No, no,
filing.
it was built without getting a permit initially. There's nothing illegal about it. I mean, nothing.
Niall, can I ask you a question, though? Can I ask you a question?
It's
If you,
not
in your rear,
against-
can you go back to the rendering, looking at the house from the rear?
Yeah.
It's a very nice rendering that you have.
Nice renderings, by the way.
Yeah, this one. Where, if you had to point on this drawing to where that wall, the walls that we're talking about are,
Well,
where would it be?
It's down here.
To the right.
Yeah, it's on the other side.
It's down the hill.
Yeah, it's off the drawing, so.
Okay.
The main part of the wall is along the rear
I
property
know,
line.
I mean, this rendering was just on the house, it's, you know, sort of, I mean, the house is accurate.
Which is where that tree is.
Big sycamore tree here.
That's okay. I just wanted to,
I mean, my recommendation would be that the board looks at the wall as part of this application to build a wall, and not necessarily, that the structural part of it has to be satisfied, one way or the other, but in terms of approving the wall, it's the new wall for this board, so, you know, just that it was put in illegally, I don't think would bear on your decision if that a wall could either be there or not, this site plan.
Okay.
I do have some concerns about the aesthetics of that double material section facing the neighbor.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I don't find it very attractive.
This?
No, the actual photograph.
Can the neighbors see it?
What do you mean? Oh, the material, the wall?
Just
Well, the
change
old
in
wall with the
material.
new wall with it
Oh.
on top of it, and
Yeah, I mean, that's whoops, am I going the wrong way? You mean the
It's right on the
neighbors-
property line,
The neighbors
right?
to the west, I guess you're talking about.
yes.
Oh, it's on the property line.
I'm looking at the photographs in the
On the property.
structural thing that you that was submitted.
That one.
That one.
That's taken from the neighbor's property?
Where's that plan?
It looks like it's right on the property line.
Yeah, it's right on the property.
So even you can't even really mitigate it with planting.
Hello?
The neighbors to the west?
Who's talking? Where'd that come from?
Sorry, that came from someone listening in, which is me, and I'm the neighbor you're talking about.
But this is not a public hearing. You
Oh,
can't-
I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
thought
that's
I
okay.
could. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So, yeah,
cool
when the
with that then.
public hearing opens, then you can make comments.
But if you want to say that recording is in process, that would be in keeping with the technology.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that's what was built.
So where do we go from here?
And we're taking some of
I
this
don't
down.
know.
Or could you go to the plan, could you go to your site plan and point out where this wall is? I don't know why I'm having, oh, it's on the
It's
west,
on the, it's,
On the west property
in the
line.
west property line. I got it, I see
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's pretty, I mean, yeah,
It probably was
yeah.
done to,
Yeah, right there, I mean, there.
probably was
The
done
wall
to keep
actually
the,
dog legs back up into the
Yeah, I
property on this
see.
side.
I got
Sorry,
it.
I'm doing it with my thumb, not this pointer. And this is the, right on the property line,
Right,
so
right.
it's not infringing over the property line.
Yeah.
it was probably done to keep the
And this is the little
land
dog
from
leg that I
sliding down
showed.
the hill.
This is the huge sycamore tree right there. This is what's shown as a
Right.
tiny little tree on the survey.
What would happen if you removed the, since you're, as it is, you're taking 2 courses down, right?
Right.
There's no way to regrade, or it would destroy that tree or whatever, if you wanted to take off all of the block that's above the old stone wall?
Well, I get, yeah.
Can that,
um,
because the wall that was, the work that was done without a permit is not that old stone wall that's at the bottom.
No, of course not.
It's the block, the lock block, whatever it's called, that other system.
Correct, right.
Like, what would be, suppose that was removed? Like, is it, like, is there a way to regrade the site so that you don't, you're already taking down 2 of the 5, how many courses are there?
2. Well, yeah, we're taking down 2 around the sycamore tree. Which is, the idea was to take, actually, there's a line right there. That's the zone we were taking down to 3 at the corner to bring it down to grade, because you can see the grade lines here, that the property drops down lower here.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, I mean, I feel like we,
Yeah, the aesthetics can be changed.
well, what I was gonna say is, I mean, I think we, like, should go see this, right? I mean,
Yeah,
as a group. It's very hard.
Site,
Huh?
site visit, oh boy.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like, we had another project that was further down on Bel Air, that was just a deck, and a portion of an enclosed deck, and because of the way the houses relate to each other there, they are very close to each other, and what you see from different grades, it's impossible to be, I mean, it's beautiful as the drawings are, and it's very thorough.
Yeah.
It's impossible to, for me anyway, to visualize this without going to the site and looking at this wall and kind of trying to imagine where your house, where the proposed house would be and so on.
Right.
I'm good with that.
I mean, you should definitely. I don't know, just to, we did do a series of sections through the walls too, but it's, oh, well, sorry, you don't probably know the area mostly, but this is the house to the south, on Bel Air. Whoops, damn it. And this is just looking down Bel Air towards the south, and I'm just sort of rotating around here, so that's the house up on the hill. I drew that section showing the sort of the relationships of the heights. That was from that house. And this is pivoting around and looking up to
That's a nice
the
house.
house, right, just to the.
Looks so nice and calm there.
Very nice. And this is some site lighting. This is a little step lighting that we're proposing. Little in-ground lighting, so everything's going to comply with the off lighting code.
Dark sky.
To the dark sky code. Pervious paving that we're proposing
Nice.
for the driveway. And the renderings really show the copper and the shingle, which would be sort of a gray shingle with a dark gray around the windows, frames, and then the windows themselves are black aluminum. Oh, this is the base of the house.
The house is behind you here.
Bedford stone.
Their house is
We're right there.
And this
No, I
kind
know,
of
but
silly
the house
thing, but it's
behind you.
weather shield windows. Not gonna look like this.
That's nice.
That's the, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would certainly mitigate the appearance of this stone wall, but I mean, you go and, and we'd take down a portion of it, as I mentioned.
Right here, this
It sounded like the neighbor who spoke up was actually the neighbor to the west, or down the
Not,
hill,
not to the,
No, to the south.
not to the south? Oh, it's different, okay, because,
which is she was below, her house is below yours. Uh-huh. So she
yeah,
had,
so,
it's her view of the wall.
I guess that's it, unless there's more questions. The one thing I think we should do, just because you know, I know you're concerned about infiltrators, and probably add another, expand it a bit. I had an issue with 55 Livingston, where we designed it per code, but we're getting these huge storms now, so.
The main thing with the infiltrators, the gist of our comments, with the areas and, you know, they're designed for an increase in impervious area, but it's not really clear if you're segregating those areas from the roof somehow and just feeding the Cultex with those. We'd have to know where the existing goes. I think ultimately you're basically redoing the entire facade of the house, and I would imagine all the gutter systems. And so I think if everything is going to the infiltrators, you've got to design the infiltrator system to take everything.
Well, yeah, I guess that's.
And not just because it's got to go somewhere, especially in a situation like this with the slopes and the wall. And, and so that's something that you have to look at carefully.
Well, of course,
in your response, the next response.
Any, you know, new stormwater issue we're definitely dealing with, no question about that. There are some drains that go in the ground, and we don't know until we start digging up the ground exactly where they go, or if there is proper infiltration, you know, drywall.
But unless you're going to preserve those connections, and those areas of roof, you're going to have to show that on the plan then.
Right, but, I mean, it's a bit like the discussion about the rock. We don't know until we start, right? And we can certainly.
No, that you've got to figure out now, because this infiltration system could get much larger.
Right,
and that's going to, and you're close to the rear wall.
Right.
So that's got to be looked at now.
Well, I guess we could just design it for the full house.
That would be.
Well, that's sort of the way,
safe thing,
I mean, because I can't dig up the entire yard and find a drywall somewhere that's not mapped anywhere. But they do go into the ground, so it's.
They may just be drywalls that may or may not
Sometimes it's-
function now, you know,
Yeah,
you don't know.
clogged up, I know that happens all the time. I mean, and it's not that big a deal, actually, to add the existing house, so it's good, they're not that expensive.
So when can we go there? I know we're coming up on the holiday season, but we should go there. We should do a site visit.
I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. So like, what do we want to try to pick a time now?
Might as well.
On a Saturday?
The 10th?
Site visit?
I could, I could do that.
Sundays are better for you?
Sundays are better for me.
Yeah, right.
Sundays are better for Laura.
I'll pick you up.
11.
I open at 11, my stores.
On Sunday?
If we do
We
Sunday,
could do at 9:30 or
if
something.
we do Sunday, we'd have, well, could we do it, can you do it early on Saturday?
9:30 on,
If we do it Sunday, I have to do it early because I have to get on my way
Saturday,
someplace.
I could do it like around 8:39.
on Sunday.
Saturday,
Saturday,
sure.
I can't go.
You
But
can't do it
I actually
Saturday?
know the property, so
What about, we can do it Sunday if we do it early. Could everybody do it Sunday, the 11th?
Sunday, 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
do we have enough time to notice public? Do we have to notice it?
And I guess
going together, we'd have to notice.
On the 11th, what's the, isn't
we
it 7
do it
days
on,
or something? 7 days in advance or something? What's the notification requirement?
Yeah, so we don't have enough time.
can we notice it tomorrow?
Yes. When did you want to go?
Sunday morning.
It would be a week from this Sunday, right?
The 11th.
Am I right? It's a week from
Sunday
this
the
Sunday,
11th?
right?
Yeah, that might be fine.
Okay,
At 9 a.m.?
yeah.
9 a.m.?
Okay.
Okay, that's fine with me. Thank you.
Sunday the 11th at 9 a.m.
Right,
Good.
okay.
Just one thought. I inherited a really ugly wall. The neighbor's side was beautiful and mine was horrible. And we veneered it with granite, thin granite, and it actually looks pretty good now. So it wasn't hugely expensive, just as an option. And obviously you have to work with Anthony.
Not with this type of wall, though. This is a block wall, unilock type, you couldn't do that.
I don't know what the options are, but.
Right, right. Good idea, but
9:30, you said?
I wrote 9.
I wrote 9.
Okay, 9.
It doesn't mean it wasn't 9:30.
Okay, good,
Okay.
9 o'clock on the 11th.
great,
We done for now?
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thanks,
It's a
Niall.
beautiful design.
Okay, good night.
Good night, thanks, Neil.
next item on our agenda, item number 3 is 120 Ogden Avenue, pre-submission conference for proposed patio extension and
Retaining walls.
retaining wall with stormwater retention. Or whatever.
Niall, your sample.
I'm sorry?
This is the one that Anthony thought we might want to waive.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Got it. So they were the owners now.
They are the
They are the
Very nice.
I didn't realize.
Okay.
1:30.
That's why I spoke directly.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chair. I'm the architect representing my client, Valentin Peralta, for the construction of a cedar fence and a cement paver patio at 130 Ogden Avenue. So I'm just going to show a Google shot of the exterior of the house. The patio is actually going to be in the back of the house, abutting the kitchen and dining area. So this is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ogden Avenue, but this is the series of single-family homes that, single-family developments that run up Ogden Avenue. So we submitted back in July. I just received engineers' comments 2 days ago, so I haven't had an opportunity to respond to the comments. So I can do the presentation and then we can talk through the comments if that's okay.
Sure.
So when we look at the site plan here, drawing number 2, sorry, this is a very metaphysical presentation. I'm here physically, but presenting virtually.
We can see this. We have
We have the
same
drawing too on our.
Oh, you have the drawing.
on our screen, well, I do on my screen.
So, so basically, it's going to be a short retaining wall, approximately 2 feet high, rubble stone construction, and the pavers are going to be cement pavers, and there is going to be a fence that runs along a portion of the property. So it's going to run along the property line to the left, up across the top, and then back around, and it's going to enclose the patio with a 3-foot fence, a 3-foot door, and there will be some planting in an existing planted area right at the front. We're also going to be upgrading the steps, which are currently wood steps, with some stone steps, and putting in a water retention system, stormwater retention system, and so most of the submission has to do with the stormwater retention. So that's kind of the proposal. That's from an architectural standpoint. So I don't know if you guys want to talk through the engineer's comments or if you have questions about the architecture.
No, the architecture looks great to me. What's the engineering, what are the issues?
I mean, the only concern is that, the Cultec unit, the infiltrator, will function, you know, so there was, you know, there's no perk test done or anything really to base it on yet. So that's something we would just want to see that established. And that there's sufficient clearance, usually you want to be 10 feet off of the house foundation and from property lines. I know it's a very tight site, so it's just something to look at, just so we don't affect any neighbors and that it's going to function, you know.
So, hi. What I would ask is, can we receive a conditional approval pending the perk test and the calcs that you had requested? You know, at the public hearing, well, during the time between now and the public hearing, we can present those calculations to you and the drawings that you had requested.
There's ownership.
And, you know, if you're okay with everything, then we're already set up to present at the public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with, you know, that being conditional to any kind of,
The board also can choose to waive the site plan view as well.
You guys,
But I have like a generic question, because I think in all the years I've like been on the planning board, this is the first time I've looked at,
townhome?
yeah, in one of these, and I'm just curious, like,
I'm
what are the,
surprised, I was surprised it's here.
well, no, I guess what I'm wondering is, like, how do the side yard, like, what are is it the same,
Ownership?
no, like, has to, like,
No zoning?
setbacks.
in
What,
terms
in
of
the
all the
cluster?
setbacks and all that stuff, does it have to, because this looks like it's 0 lot line.
It's a cluster development, so when they do it, when they made the cluster.
Right.
It's like, this is, I believe it's the OF4 zone, but in the resolution, it would say what a setback was. On these, it's 0 because the houses are built right up against.
That's
each
what I
other.
mean, like,
So
so,
there is no, it's different than a regular one-family zone.
Yes.
so how does he demonstrate, or anyone who would do something in one of these, how do they demonstrate that they conform to the, like, whatever I mean, I see there's a chart in here that relates to zoning, but it says that there are that 10-foot,
Yeah, so what I put in here is based on the code for OF4, for the OF4 zone. But we're actually not building anything within those setbacks.
yeah.
Yeah, is
We're
there a
just
setback?
building
my-
a fence. Yeah.
Is there a requirement for patio and
There's-
that height?
Yeah, that's what I mean, like, they're,
Setback?
It would be in the resolution when that cluster development was established.
And Valentin has also presented this to his HOA board, and they've given approval. So it's not like this hasn't been presented to the board. He's also talked to his neighbors,
no, it seems fine. I'm just trying to figure out, like, what you would,
The
have you
setback.
seen whatever, should he and the owners review whatever the original cluster requirements were and certify to us that they conform to whatever those are? Because that sounds like that's different than just conforming to the zoning of the,
But he just said the HOA
Approved
said it was okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
is that the same thing?
I don't know.
I don't know.
From that resolution. Well, yeah.
This is a bad,
Dan
it's a
and
new one for
Dan and I
us.
can take a look at it, or I'm saying Dan Romer and I can take a look at it for next month's meeting, or unless for some reason if the board chooses to waive the site plan approval, then clearly that's going to be a condition of any sort of building permit that would get issued, that they would have.
Then I would
That's
say
okay with me, yeah.
It'd be okay with me to waive,
Yeah.
Waive
What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Waiving?
Be fine with me.
as long as you and Dan will just make sure that whatever things above and beyond zoning.
And Anthony's happy.
Yeah, so you have the board's blessing.
Well, Anthony would still look at the
That's
drainage.
Anthony.
As long as Anthony and Ellery are happy.
And even though the site plan
What's
is
the
waived,
material of the stone? I'm just curious.
It's a cement paver.
Cement pavers?
Yeah.
So what action should we take to do this?
Usually when you waive the site plan review, I think you just vote, right? We voted in the past for waiving of the site plan.
Okay, all right. All right, I move that we waive site plan approval for this application.
130 Ogden Avenue. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, good luck.
You're 1-0. You're 1-1. You're 1-0.
Yeah, this is my first time presenting to the.
You got your.
So easy.
I said you're
Build a
1-0.
dumpster.
Yeah, you guys are a very fun board to present to. Mr. Lane, do you also sit on the Hastings board, Hastings Planning Board?
That would be really amazing.
I feel like I presented to you
Yes.
before, but,
I do.
oh, you do?
And other towns.
No, are you pulling my leg? You're pulling my leg? Oh,
I wouldn't be allowed to. I assume.
the conflict of interest.
I don't know. Can you serve on a planning
I think
board?
you have to be a resident.
You have to be a resident.
So, okay, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Sure.
I will submit everything through the proper channels and get you the calculation.
But it's through the building department now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They'll forward it along. I was going to say about that previous presentation, the Zero Mountain Drive,
Yeah.
North Mountain Drive. So what we did at some, which is why I was asking about you sitting on another board. So in Hastings, we're right on the Hastings-Dobbs Ferry line on Hollywood Drive. It's an extremely steep slope. It's
Yeah.
30 plus. That
Yeah, I'm below it on,
and
I think.
huge rock outcroppings everywhere. And we profiled the site with borings, and we took borings every 10 feet to get the rock profile of the site. And what we ended up doing was situating the house directly on piers that were sitting on the bedrock itself.
Oh, that's
and we've
interesting.
hovered the house over the entire
Wow.
site.
That's cool.
Not that the other gentleman has to do that, but that's what we did in order to profile the site. So we had a very good understanding.
Well, he's here. He's standing right behind you.
Oh. Closer, closer. My God, that's scary. Thank you so much.
Sure, good.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. The last item on our agenda, item number 4, 10 Hamilton Street, Lombardo's, continuation of pre-submission conference for proposed construction of a pagoda for exterior dining.
We'll see how far we can get in this one. So Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design here. We've been before you a couple of times, and we are looking to get this moving forward. We understand there are a couple of different issues that have come up of concerns. The first is ADA compliance. We're still of the opinion that, and we've got some photographs that will show, that this is compliant with ADA. We understand that there's another parking area that would be convenient for people going to urgent care, but there is a handicap parking space immediately across the street that goes directly in the crosswalk right up the ramp. And one of the things, when people have been trying to kind of figure this out, it's a little bit nebulous, I think, because the perception is somehow that we're somehow taking something away. We're not. Then if the intent of the ramp was not to serve urgent care, why would there be a ramp there? You know, it's not, you
To
don't need
serve that whole
too.
site. To serve that site there.
The ramp that's in front is to serve the site, which is
Part of the
urgent care.
right of way. I think the ADA code clearly states you need to have a pathway on site.
Yep.
I think the ramp serving the right of way. It's doing.
That doesn't make
Have
a lot of
path
sense.
to the right of way.
Right, so you've got a ramp that comes down that was the part of the site plan that was done for that
That doesn't
complex.
preclude you from complying with the ADA code that requires you to have a path on site between all accessible areas of the site.
Right, but I understand the section that you quoted, but,
Look, I don't think we should debate that. I
Yeah,
think
we
it
can-
has to be a determination made by the building inspector
okay,
in the end.
of course. Second is storm water management. I want to show how the system works, because I think that it makes it clear that we don't really have an issue with it. The third is the aesthetics of the proposed structure. We've got some photographs that we want to go through. The concern, and it was even, I went back and watched the video of this, and the concept was this would not necessarily fit in our downtown aesthetically, but we're not in the downtown. We're at Rivertown Square, and I think when we look at really what Rivertown Square is like, it's not, it's not something that has a problem with this type of aesthetic. We've identified this, I'm doing these in the order that I just mentioned. The first is the ADA. Again, not to really belabor it, but there are a number of ways to get to this, and the idea that that the only one that really counts is the one coming from the parking lot doesn't, make sense, but we'll address that.
Patty, I think one of the things that, Dan, so I think that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks, because this project cannot move forward as proposed unless Dan agrees that you meet the ADA requirement.
And has Dan formed a final opinion on that?
I don't think it meets ADA.
Okay, is that something you and I can talk about? Because it means making a change to the design, which is viable to do.
Right, that's what we've been raising.
No, I understand that that would be the easy way to say we just obviate that and we take some space off of it and we can get around. It's making a change that I'm not sure is, serves a purpose. So that's something that would be good if we can talk about that. Not here.
So,
Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about, because for the site access, you have to have access to the whole site from the parking area. And you don't have that if you're blocking it with a structure.
Okay, well,
I mean, just, because I went over there and I was like looking around, I have a couple of thoughts, but I mean, go back to the diagram you had up there. So, Dan, if you're in the parking lot there, right, and you want to get to urgent care, you can go down the ramp, right, that's to the right, around where the elevator is, where it's shown on this diagram. Right, and then travel over and go up the ramp and to urgent care, right?
Yes.
But you're saying that's not adequate?
No.
And why is it not adequate?
Because it says in the ADA code that it's a site access, so you shouldn't take somebody and make them go out of their way. Now they have to go back down and come up. It's for the site access. You should be able to access all the buildings on that site. You
Which
shouldn't be,
presumably you were doing just from the, like if the addition wasn't there, you're getting there by just going up
going right
onto the
around.
sidewalk and going around that
Correct.
corner.
We had I quoted the quote, the code in my comment, within a site, at least one accessible route shall connect accessible buildings, accessible facilities, accessible elements, and accessible space that are on the same site. That's under within a site, so it has to be on
You
the
can't make
site.
people go out into the right of way.
Right.
you can't
Okay.
Can't
inconvenience.
leave
So-
the site.
So-
and-
Okay, yeah, I get it. So then the other thing I just want to say is.
By the way, just
Yeah.
before, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
there also needs to be accessible routes off the site, like to
Yeah.
sidewalks and things like
Yeah.
that, which is what the ramp.
Which is what the ramp is.
Right.
But, because I was just gonna say, like, the other thing is I went there and that patio is it's really deep. I think if the gridded things are on there are a foot square, are they a foot?
About
The
that.
existing thing, but
Yeah.
it's like 18 feet, I think,
Right.
something, right? So when I was just kind of looking at it, I thought, well, you could provide, how much would you have to pull this back in order to provide?
requirement's 36 inches, we'd do 4 feet.
Well, is that true? Can it only be 36, or do you have to enable 2 wheelchairs to pass each? Like,
I
what
think it
is,
says 42 inches, unless it's a corridor longer than 100 feet, then you need a wider for like 2 to pass.
because you could get a substantial, it looked to me, just eyeballing it, that like, you could get around this whole problem by where you have your black line there up on the upper level, you would still have what looks like a pretty large addition to the, certainly bigger than what you see as a typical outdoor sidewalk space. And so it seems like that's such an easy way out. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the people.
Well, you should, yeah, yeah.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
My name's Peter Lombardo, Father Mario over here.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the ADA compliance, is that just, that's it, in terms of, we can't?
That's
we
for
can't
me, for
block-
code, for the
No,
aesthetics and.
you're the authority on
Not on the aesthetics and stuff. On
No,
the
no,
ADA, yes,
ADA,
that's what
so
I'm
it's
looking
not
for.
even, it would have to have some kind of either pathway along the.
Let me
Correct.
just ask a question, though. It says within a site, so what is the site? I mean, is the site?
Those buildings.
The site is the footprints of the
So they're
building.
responsible for,
It's all
to get to others, is it all one? So there's, I mean, 3 different ways to get there within the larger site. So I'm confused as to what the definition of a site is here.
And in terms of access, in terms of usage, I mean, almost no one will go through my area. Almost everyone uses the ramp. Just because you have to, yeah.
Yeah, but we can't,
And
yeah.
they'd have to cross an active, parking lot rather than going to the street where you're visible, and then going across. I'm just saying in terms of usage, when people actually going in and out of the place, what they tend to use or what they tend to prefer. Because even before then, we didn't see too many people using that ramp. It's always, they see the ramp in front of the building and then they'll use that.
But I'm glad it's not up to us.
But just to go back to my point, let's say that you were gonna pull it back this 42 inches. You still get a significant add, right? I mean, that's a,
Yeah,
that's a,
it's definitely a great, I think you would take,
and I actually think it's good because it brings the activity of the restaurant closer to to Livingston. I think it's all good. I'm just wondering why, like, if it just doesn't work for you in terms of laying tables out and things like that?
yeah, in terms of space, putting larger parties, number one, to lay out the table a certain way to do, that's this, predominantly what. Yeah, it gets a little bit restricted, believe it or not, once you start to put things inside of there. You think that it looks like a lot of space, but once you actually are inside, we've measured it. I've even had tents that size, that's why, that's the only reason we've seen it. And the first year that we tried to do it, during the whole pandemic,
Yeah.
we saw, we could pretty much only put two tops or 3 two-tops if you were gonna really put people close. And the whole proposal just was, no reason behind it, that people like to sit outside now. People, feel way more comfortable outside rather than inside. So, just to stack people close to each other, we just want as much space as we possibly afford, given that with our clients and everything. And then aesthetically too, people walking back and forth. But like I said, it's not a high traffic area. Typically, people will use that ramp if they need to. And, they see urgent care and they just go up the stairs of the ramp.
I mean, in the end, we have to conform to ADA, whatever,
Yeah.
we don't define what that
Yeah,
is.
of course.
So, that has to be resolved, and
Yeah.
it sounds like it is, but if there's more information,
Because the site is basically, you're saying it's all treated as one.
That's my question is,
Yeah, that's.
what's the site? Is the site all the stores around it and the red part there, or is
That's
it?
how we're looking at it, as all the stores that are accessed from that parking lot.
Are these individually owned, or are they all,
They're condos.
they're condos?
Right.
This ain't a condo.
And we still own the street,
Commercial condo.
the
So,
commercial, and we still own the village.
but if you,
Still owns the street,
if you're
right?
thinking, if you're thinking about the whole site, then he's shown 3 ways of getting to everything. So,
Yeah, but you have to go out, but I guess the point that
That's
they're
the-
raising is you have to
Right.
go out into the street and then come
off the
back.
site.
but
you
have to
can't
go
force
off
somebody to
the
leave the
site.
site.
You're
You
forcing
have to go
somebody
off the site.
off the site,
Right.
into the
But
street and then
you-
back up.
but you just said that the whole site is all the, all the stores around it and everything.
No, he meant the 2 that are, the urgent care and his building, not the ones across the street.
No.
We're not looking at this like
Okay.
one big, like it was planned that way, but it isn't one big there isn't one owner here, right?
well,
These
that's a
are all-
village street there, right?
Huh?
The village-
It's a
that's-
public street and
Right, so
people
that's-
own
the site ends at
individual
that point.
paths. People own individual paths, so the site,
So across the street, all those buildings are a site also, they're a separate site.
They're a separate site.
yeah, they're all different
They're
paths.
So that conglomerate of buildings are separate
They
sites.
have their,
So,
handicap spots.
Site
for-
is this block of building.
Correct. Yeah.
so the definition of the site is just that side of the street, which he's shown as one accessible route.
But I'm not trying to support against the idea, but if I'm understanding it correctly, the idea is that in the site, parcel 2, anything in there counts as connection. You leave this and go to the sidewalk, then you've left the site.
Right,
you
and
have
then you're
to
coming
enter
back
it.
on the site on the other
Even
end.
though this would
Correct.
be the safest, best route, the idea is to not preclude people from being able to come around and do it that way.
But is urgent care on your site?
Well, urgent care is on parcel 2. I mean, this was
Oh,
all
okay.
one site.
All right, all
Right,
right.
now, and it was
So this is
parcel.
parcel 2, this was parcel 1, this is parcel.
No, but it's access from that parking lot for that block of buildings. That's
Okay.
the site.
Okay, now I
If it
understand.
wasn't a parking lot, then this would be fine because they would use.
Well, then there would be no ramp there.
If that was just like a storefront on the
Wouldn't it?
street.
Right.
Ramp here to get,
There wouldn't be none, right, if there was no parking lot.
there'd be a ramp if there wasn't a parking lot. That's how you get.
Yeah, you'd have to,
Next to the urgent care, yeah.
But that's how you have it. So
Okay,
it sounds like Dan is fairly solid on this.
That's the ADA code, not Dan. That's code, Patty.
You're confident in your interpretation?
Yes.
Okay.
and are there situations in which there are appeals or exceptions to, based on a particular circumstance, or the ADA is the ADA and that's it?
Federal law.
Yeah.
It's a law, not a code, so you can deal, I mean, there are a lot of municipalities that don't get involved in it because they don't want to have any of the responsibility. I think Dobbs Ferry handles this in the right way, like when we were dealing with 75 Main. You know, there were issues of concern with that every building should be accessible to people, even if they're, you know, not able to climb stairs and things like that.
I mean, the other way to look at it also, which doesn't really help your case, but, is that, would you design the site this way? If it was a new site plan, I don't think you would do it.
No.
You know,
It's true.
Yeah.
so, you know, to send someone out into the road, and then you're crossing a driveway apron also.
You're
So
doing
it's
that
not
anyway.
really- Well, you're doing it within the site. I'm not sure where the handicap parking is in that parking lot.
It's on the other side of the elevator,
Okay. Why would it be only because by the elevator?
because it's by the
There's
elevator.
none along well,
No.
Either
it's-
way,
either way, people cross the parking lot, but to cross a ramp and an apron is, to me, is not as safe as
You're
across the parking lot.
inconveniencing
Yeah, I mean, I'm
somebody
sorry,
with a
it's just
handicap.
This is the way it is.
but the other issue about where the rainwater's going?
Well, the main thing is we want to see that it just doesn't create a nuisance,
Right.
an icing problem, something like that. So if it's just coming off the roof or it's coming down these channels, and there's multiple outlets, we just want to see that it has to be routed, it should be routed then, you know, especially now, we're gonna have a path there too.
It's duplicating
We
what's
wanna-
currently
we gotta
there.
Think about that, you know. Well, it's not really duplicating, what you have there is a sheet flow. You mentioned that it comes down the rails, so at the bottom of each rail, presumably you'd have an outlet. So you
But
got
if-
a bunch of little point discharges.
But if the wall
right,
of the
Which you're gonna
structure,
drip and which you're gonna ice up.
but if the wall of the structure was 4 feet away from the edge, then it would be sheeting the way it does now.
No. It's different than the rain landing on the concrete sidewalk area and sheeting across. That's one thing.
Yeah, I mean, this
Off
is,
the roof and coming down, well, you gotta show us more detail on it,
Right.
what it looks like. I mean,
we did submit all that stuff in advance, right? You did
I
get,
don't know that I saw anything on that.
Yeah, we
There was some, cut sheets like this.
Right.
Maybe, but how many discharge points would there be?
it's along the whole bottom.
So how many?
It's not many, it's all.
It's a continuous sheet flow along, how does that work?
If you see the diagram, it comes down, it discharges underneath, it runs underneath, outside,
There's windows on this, right?
sitting above that.
Right. So what's coming off the roof, it's not coming down sheet, it's gotta be channeled through these columns,
The
right?
columns channel it down, and then at the base, it discharges along in an even flow, so it runs across the concrete and out.
I mean, I'll look
Yeah,
at it again.
We'll get,
If you could, replicate that, I guess, it may work.
What's underneath there? I mean, can you core it and just tie into a drain?
you'd have to collect it somehow.
You'd have to have a gutter and come down a downspout, I think.
And the challenge with, and that's not part of this system. This system's designed so that it maintains the flow of water from rain, same as if it wasn't there. The question is, would there be some way of picking it up somewhere along there, which I think would then interfere with other things and create new concerns, and concentrate the flow, which is probably the last thing we'd want to do. You can avoid it.
Right, well, that's what we're trying to.
Right. So that's the water. Let's get to aesthetics. So these are some images of the way that this system looks. This is a proprietary design that somebody has actually created as, if you will, as an art piece that they sell with this design. It doesn't have multiple designs. It's not like an unarticulated frame that you then decorate. So the idea is to be using something that has a character as part of the aesthetic, its intent.
So what are the things that I saw, because I went to, I don't know if I found the right website. I tried to look up this company, what is it called?
Pergola.
Huh?
The Pergola?
Yeah, what's the name of the company? I found Sky,
Oh, Skyview.
Skyview. So, like, what are the things that you do have play over though? You have play over the color of the metal, I take it, right?
Yep.
That was what that is. What else do you have? What else is, I realize the basic system is the system, but what other things can you theoretically pick and choose among besides the color of the metal? Can you do anything with the glaze, like, any of the, is there any kind of change you can make about the pattern of the window, the glass pattern?
Well, the size, this is a kit, so it's like how long a piece is. It can be whatever length, so you could vary the pattern of the windows somehow, but I think part of the aesthetic here that is attractive is the uniformity of it. It's very simple and clean. I don't know if getting into something where we would do some kind of a design with the structure that would improve its look aesthetically. I think it would be trying to make it into something that it doesn't really want to be. I mean, here's what we're dealing with in terms of the aesthetics of the location. And, you see, actually, that's kind of an interesting one, because this is actually showing what we were talking about before. But the look of this building is it's not our downtown.
I don't know I don't remember anybody saying that it should look like our downtown.
They said the comment was this would not look good in our downtown. They weren't necessarily saying.
I don't think
So.
That's not what I'm comparing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on its own, on its merits.
So if you look at the designs of the buildings on the street and what all of this really ends up looking like, I think if this will just catch up in a second and be showing this with the renderings, I think that fits with the aesthetic.
Well, you could make it white.
Yeah, the color could change.
The color could change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if, it was a nice array of colors.
Yeah, no, we saw the colors and the louvers and the lighting. The lighting is sort of cool.
Yeah, I think the simpler it is, I wouldn't want to start getting into multicolors. I think one tone.
Yeah.
Simple and clean. I think it'd be good.
Also, what's the utilization of the parking lot there?
What's the utilization? It's,
Like, how much does it fill up?
no.
Is it most?
Does it fill up when you guys are doing something?
Does the parking lot?
Yeah.
I think Friday and Saturday nights, they're showing a movie across the street, yeah, hello. But typically, no. I know they don't allow parking to the homes across the street.
Just because we were looking at it, we thought if we put the Sky Free on the north side, where the parking lot is.
You lose some parking spaces.
That would then become a problem with the site plan itself.
And it wouldn't look good.
Or wouldn't do as much for Livingston.
Yeah, I think I'm familiar with this property.
Yeah, we know.
I don't have a problem with the conceptually, I really don't. It's just, but it sounds like the ADA thing. I mean, I just don't know what.
Yeah, I've never.
That's not really up to us, and I don't know how to resolve that.
Well, that's something we'll need to talk about, but I think it might be resolvable. It has to be resolvable somehow. So, you know, what we're looking at this point, I think the activity of this on Livingston is a positive. I don't think that would be better if it was somewhere else. So if it's a matter of picking colors and that type of detailing, and we have to obviously satisfy the engineer that we don't have a concentrated flow and the water is not going to cause a hazard. Those, I think, are engineering and aesthetic for AHRB, which would be if we were at that point. So if we can get to that point, it would really be good. Obviously, the hurdle is the ADA component.
Yes, I don't know what to tell you.
So,
But, yeah, build another ramp on top of the ramp. No, that would be going off the site. Your property, your site technically is that line, so you can't go there.
Going through, they're not open all the time. Like, I don't think you can.
I know. But they're not talking about what they're to do, they're talking about an interpretation of the law.
Closing the same corridor space.
I don't know. I think that's kind of clever, actually.
yeah, I think it's,
I think it's okay, I just,
Yeah,
I don't know what to do about this ADA thing.
you know, it's another color.
Yeah, it's more the color, it's what looks so stark. But I don't know what to do about this ADA thing. So,
I think proportionally too, it's great.
If they change the color, would you like it better?
No.
Really?
the color would make
Yeah,
a
me
difference.
I
Huh?
think
I think
proportionally.
it looks awful.
It doesn't,
I don't know.
it doesn't match the building proportionally. I think it's too squatty and
Right.
too.
Well, if it becomes 4 feet shorter. or,
We
you
may
know,
not
or
get to that
it's gonna
point
look
if
different.
the ADA thing.
Yeah, they may have to
Yeah.
solve the ADA thing and then.
I mean, it's only 17 feet, so if you have to remove 4 feet off of that, it's only 13 feet, then you gotta allow for the structure.
Well, it's like 18, I think it's more than that. I was out there. It looks like a lot of space to me,
Well,
but he
on
says
the
it's
drawing, it says 17.4
for the totals.
for the, in the red, that red dimension there. And so if you take 4 feet from that,
It's about that.
it's only 13 and change, and then you gotta allow for the structure.
Although the structure doesn't look very thick.
It looks pretty bulky, right?
No, I doubt it's much more than a curtain wall.
So another six
6 or 8
inches.
inches.
It
Yeah.
sounds like you gotta solve the ADA thing and
So
then
then you're down.
Okay,
to-
go
so
from there.
would the board be willing to advance us to the public hearing if we solve the ADA thing?
No, well, it's gonna be a different thing once you solve it.
It would be 4 foot smaller.
Oh, you mean
Tight.
if you do
It's tight for you guys.
put it in?
Yeah.
Well, I think either way, you should show it. I think doesn't
Got a
make
lot of
sense.
tables.
Right, and also just to keep in mind, this board, this is the village board will ultimately need to do site plan approval, so this will be a recommendation to the village board for site plan. So, I don't know if that changes, you know, your mind on when to, when to have that, when to do the next step, or to have a public hearing on.
We just make a recommendation.
So, once,
Oh,
I have a question for Mr. Lombardo. Once the, yeah, once, assuming you were to put this in, do you remove, like, I was looking at a picture of the existing Livingston Avenue.
Yeah.
Does that basically does this become the new outside wall of your building? Whatever this, and you take this down, the existing curtain wall along Livingston?
No, this would just be, have a door, and that would be an extension to it.
This would be unheated and
Oh,
not
I'm not.
not
the
conditioned
top is-
space.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, okay.
So this is a.
So you are constrained space-wise between the existing and whatever the outside thing would be.
The slides, it'll better show, you had the pictures of the outside of where we currently had it last summer. It
Well-
could basically,
I mean, this shows
no,
it.
it shows the picture that you
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. It's just, I mean,
so they could see an approximation of what it would look like if we had to take 4 feet away. You just had it.
Installation there, you could maybe put 36 inches.
Right.
Pretty long. You probably get
Yeah,
6 or 8,
just,
you know, maybe 8
just
tables.
for an example, those are,
Anymore.
those are, if you see to the right, the four tops, those are 4-foot tables. So if you were to take, 3.5, 4 feet, you're pretty much gonna be able to put maybe.
Row of tables.
A row of tables, one, like a 2-top and then a 4-top, which would dramatically, unless we're gonna put people really close together, which they just don't want to. You could tell by the spacing that we had,
Yeah, I get it.
throughout the summer, and sometimes even then, people complained that it was tight. So, just
I
trying
get
to
it.
make everyone happy, it's
Yeah.
kind of tough to get a little,
For a long time.
Can you,
18 feet, you're almost giving away 20%.
can you build sort of an outrigger route around the,
You're off the
you know,
site.
like
Get the air rights.
cantilever over
You're
the,
still off the site.
That'd be off the site.
that's too bad.
Doesn't show the link. 108.
Well, is there hope?
Is there any way that we could extend it?
Well, you've got the same problem. If we have to get around it, I mean, we might be able to
I'm
make
saying,
it,
say if we were gonna, the width of
Be
it,
longer?
if we were gonna reduce the width and maybe extend the length just to make up for some of the square footage that's lost.
I mean, is this your space? Is that?
So I think we should,
Yeah.
we should probably close
Here's
this
your
for now.
interior.
right?
I'm sorry?
We should probably close this for now, right?
So if that's.
There's no point, we should close this up. I mean, I don't think there's any.
We're not making any progress.
Extend it to the planter.
That's what they have to, no, then they have to.
So,
All right.
You don't think we need to carry it over to the next meeting?
Well, it's just pre-submission.
Just pre-submission,
so we're gonna carry the pre-submission over to the next meeting.
yeah.
Let you guys figure it out.
Right, at this point, then some go with it, submit that. We could do it with the, we'll make the path ADA.
So if we were coming in with this design that shows the 4 feet along between the railing and the building and 5'6" between the planter and the thing, so that you've got the path coming all the way around, would that make a difference?
Yeah, I guess if you have an ADA compliant path in the site, then
Here's wheelchairs can come up on the sidewalk, it's here.
I mean, I personally would like to see a full plan.
I mean,
to
you're
see-
asking whether that goes to a public hearing?
I mean, I'd like to see a nice, a drawing of everything in the right color.
Yeah, I mean, the public
it's-
has to be able to look at this, and
Yeah.
know what's going on. They want.
That's,
We could call a public hearing, right? I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be resolved next month.
Sure.
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
All right, I move that we have a public hearing at next meeting. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And the public hearings for a recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
So can I go home now, or do you want me to talk about?
You
We're
can
gonna
leave.
go.
You can go
You can
home.
stay if you want. We're gonna go though.
Good night, thank you.
All right, I move.
wait, I have one little bit of business to do.
Okay.
This is the last, this is, so on behalf of these bums who didn't get here. This is champagne. Thank you for you've been great, Donna, you've been a great liaison for us, absolutely.
Now we can close the meeting.
Thank you very much, you guys are
Can
terrific.
you please zoom in and be the voice of God in the background, and
I'll zoom in periodically.
Now you can come to the public hearings
Oh, yeah.
and say whatever you want.
I know, exactly.